Hi, I'm Marc Loftus, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Post TV. Today I'm joined by Jesse Korosi of Sim International, and he's the Director of Workflow Services. Jesse, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we've covered Sim over the years, and obviously you guys have a broad spectrum of services and locations even throughout North America. I know you do dailies. I know you have editorial, space for rent, picture finishing, sound post-production, but you've got something interesting going on in the metadata front that could be valuable to a studio that's moving through the post process. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So that would be Metabank, and that is a service that we offer now, and it really started from the standpoint of cataloging metadata for ourselves. We used to have documents, whether it be Word or Excel, and then we wanted to start collaborating on those, so those got pushed into Google. Eventually, we put those all into Metabank, and the idea was take all of our technical specifications, technical documents that we gather during pre-production of asking, because we on the dailies front, we go to so many departments and we're gathering so many specs to know that how are things being done on set, how are the dailies going to be delivered to ensure that a smooth conform happens. We're also involved in some of the sound work, we're also involved in the VFX I/O. There's a lot of information that goes through a lab. Usually that goes into documents that the lab usually keeps on hand, but it doesn't really get put out and become a usable asset, in a sense, to make other work more intelligent. So the idea was centralize that and then start centralizing all of the metadata that we gather from various sources. So the simple one is gathering camera metadata. Okay, that's easy enough. We've been doing that for a while, but now let's take the sound metadata. Now let's take the scripting notes. Now let's take the visual effects data wrangler notes and take any kind of digital documentation that we can, collect it all into one central database, and then connect that with the camera masters so that we can do some more intelligent transcoding. You know, you see a lot of transcoding applications that are cloud-based that are popping up now. It's great. The thing is, what makes an application more powerful than another in this sense is, well, among many things, but is the data that it's using to do its work. So in this scenario, with access to all of that various metadata, it can be a lot more intelligent. So simple things like, hey, I want to, transcode for promo and I want to re-add the sound, but hey, remember dailies actually slipped the sound because it wasn't jam synced, or there was, the sound and video time code are often off by a frame or two or something like that. Okay, use that metadata, re-slip it for that export. Hey, I want dailies color applied or I don't. Oh, I want dailies framing applied or I don't. I want to inject the metadata from this person or this department and put it into the files that are going to VFX as an example. You can really control a lot of things by aggregating that data.
Where is it collected on set? Is it collected during the dailies process? Or obviously you may have a soundtrack coming from one device, you have camera information, you may have lens information. I mean, so how are you actually putting it together just with so many different sources on set and creating?
This is the really tricky thing. And this is why it took a long time and why we used it as an internal tool before ever taking it client-facing to really hone this in. Every camera even has different, if you looked at everything in an ALE as an example or a spreadsheet view, every camera has different naming conventions for simple things, even like a color space or a gamma or even resolution. These are very simple pieces of metadata, but even these are different depending on the camera. So we had to create mappings to say, this is a Sony Venice, put that information here. This is red, put that information here. And so in terms of your question about how do we deal with each source, honestly, each one is really treated in its own unique way, because we don't want to get in the way of the filmmakers. Or any of the creatives or technologists that are on the job. So, however, Scripty, as an example, they have a Metabank export option in the application. VFX data wrangler notes on set, that's not quite as simple because everyone's using a different application. Some people are literally using spreadsheets. So all we say is give us a CSV. That goes to the lab, just like any media that comes from set during a break off or wrap. That comes to us. We upload that into the site. And where this really starts to get tricky is how do you then merge that data with the camera masters and all of the other data, because there's a lot of human error involved in a lot of these scenarios. I think that right now this is a stepping stone to, one day I'd like to believe that we'll be going directly off the camera. The metadata will go into a database and everyone collecting this metadata on set. Instead of us gathering that, fixing the human errors, uploading it into the central database, I'd like to think that if it was all communicating with that central database during capture, we'd eliminate a lot of this human work that has to go into it to fix some of these things.
Is your solution there at Sim, is it cloud or is it internal within the facility? I know you have a lot of locations, so I would have to think that.
So it's a combination, depending on the situation. So why don't I talk about a use case where, let's say you shoot and your main shooting location is LA. Now, I was talking previously about this just being scalable. I think that cloud storage is a lot easier to scale than our internal SANs at Sim. We don't have just petabytes and petabytes just sitting there waiting to be used. If we look at the amount of work we do, we can't have every show's media all online. Right. But if we put it in the cloud, we put it into S3 compatible storage, it can scale as big as it needs to go. And we don't have to be worried that, oh crap, we bought a 150 terabyte SAN, but now it's 200 terabytes for this job. We need to buy a whole nother SAN. It's just all good. It just scales. Right. And then the same with computing. So the computing is all done through Amazon. And what's really cool from a geeky perspective is that if you shoot one unit in, like I was saying, LA, you upload that media to a West Coast region. Now you go and you shoot in a different country, a different region. You could upload the media into that region, and then it takes longer to upload media to different regions. So maybe you just keep it in that region, but then the system is smart enough to say, okay, the VFX editor has submitted a pull request to turn over files to VFX. One of those shots came from US West. Spin up a virtual computer in US West and render from there. Now, the second shot in that same request is actually coming from the East Coast, or a completely different country. Spin up a virtual computer there and render back to one central location for people to download from. And at that point, it becomes a lot quicker. And as an example, Watchmen, which was a job that we recently used this on, they actually said at the top of the job, if you don't have an automated VFX pull tool, you can't do VFX pulls on the job. So that was key, and it really takes something that is, even if you have a great process manually, it's still going to be hours to turn this kind of a thing around. We were getting pull requests with 200 plus shots every pull, and wow. Yeah, and that was minutes to turn around.
Is Watchmen a show that was going across Sim as far as multiple services? Were you working with outside studios as well?
So that one, we actually did provide a lot of services on that. Not quite all of our services. Now, you have to understand, Sim, like you said during the intro, has a lot of things, but we even have camera, and we have grip and lighting, and we have studio space and sound editing, and it's a wide gamut. But on that one, we did do a lot of the services, and the dailies were controlled through us, which was convenient because the metadata captured could be captured in a way that we wanted. We're working on trying to get this to a place where we don't require dailies to be done by us. But a lot of, like I was saying, how automatable a lot of these tasks are really depend on how it's captured. And so it really helps when we're doing dailies. But we were also doing the finishing as well, which was nice.
Wow. For somebody who wants to know more about Metabank or your services, can we direct them to your website?
Yeah, they could go to siminternational.com. and they could look there. We've also got a couple blogs I've put up there. To be honest, though, we don't really market this too much, except one-on-one interviews, and really show people one-on-one. We're not really putting out too many advertisements that are really a jazz piece for the thing. We just let the clients speak for it, to be honest. We have jobs like that one, Watchmen, that had 28 visual effects companies working on it all across the globe. It was a really, really hard job. They then finish that job, tell other people the success stories, and that kind of carries it. And that's kind of been our mantra from the beginning of this project. We haven't really put out many marketing pieces on it.
Understood. But I guess if somebody's going to be using any of your services, whether it's dailies or something, knowing that this is an option for them could be an attractive feature.
Yes, for sure. And it goes into especially today's world where we have our conforms and onlines happening right now, and we can't have people in our office switching tapes in an LTO autoloader. We can't have people unplugging and plugging in hard drives. So this kind of a tool being used even for the conform, we can talk all day about our online editor working remotely, but that online editor can't work unless the media is online. So this is the kind of tool that really helps with that, where we have everything on Metabank. We upload the EDL or whatever is necessary to do the conform. That consolidates the media into the appropriate spec or trims it, keeping the camera neg as an example. Now the online editor can go in and do the remote work. But it's definitely being used across all of post for various things, promo pulls, conform, and VFX pulls. It's just whatever is a mathematical situation that doesn't require a creative input from a human.
Understood. Well, Jesse, we want to thank you for taking a little time, telling us a little bit about it. And if you want to know more, again, like they said, go to your website, siminternational.com.
Thank you.